At Direct Service Garage Doors, we are your one-stop shop for all things garage door. From garage door repair and broken spring replacement to new garage doors and openers, we do it all. We're proud to be among the highest-rated local garage door companies in all of Central Arkansas. Our highly trained technicians are available 24 hours a day at no extra cost to you. So if you have an emergency, call us today, 501-244-3667, or visit our website at directserviceoverhead.com. Don't wait days. We'll fix it now.
How long did that take you, the initial edit? How long did that take you, talking about the actual graphic itself?
Right, so the whole design was probably maybe an hour. It was a but yeah, I had a couple friends ask me if I could show like a behind the scenes process of me putting together a design, and I don't know how much I actually revealed in that, the fact that it was sped up, 10, 15 times or something like that. So I don't know if they got to really see the techniques as much, but kind of gave them an idea of kind of how I play around with putting things together and what order I do stuff. So
the sped up process part of the editing, I was digging it. I was like, I've got to show that on the Patreon show. But Josh, I do, man, again, really appreciate you taking time. I know your window was a little short. You didn't have a whole lot of time, and I appreciate you coming on this Sunday afternoon.
I appreciate you having me on.
All right, everybody, happy Monday. I hope this is the best part of your Monday, or whenever you're catching this. Let's do this. We've got so much to cover. 3, 2, 1. Yo, what's going on, Arkansas? Razorback fans. Welcome. Notice I don't say SEC fans anymore. I don't care about anybody else. I don't care about you. I'm just kidding. We got a few good SEC people that come through every once in a while. Mike Neal, Mississippi State fan. He's a good dude. He's a good bro. He's a good guy. We've had a couple of A&M people that have come through, and they're like actually pretty cool. When I was making edited content, that wasn't necessarily the case. A&M people really hated me. Hey, I've got a question for you guys before we get into the sponsors here really quick. I have had this water in this studio room, I don't know how long. It's over here off, out of sight, out of mind. Is it safe to? It's safe to drink, right? It's been sitting here a long time. Like, it literally had dust. I had to clean the dust, and it collected some condensation a little bit on the inside until I switched it around. So should I do a poll? Should I drink the water? I'm sure it's safe, right? I mean, it's just water. I mean, it's been open is my point, right? Like, you see, it's been open. So, all right. Tercer says it's safe. I'm going to take a big swig. It's our last. We don't have any more water in our house. That's our last. That's it. I drink Prime. I try to drink this stuff. It's pretty good. All right. Arkansas got a big-time recruit today, big-time commit. So I didn't go live today. I told you guys a little while back, these shows are going to become a little bit more random on the time because our schedule with what we have, with our two kids, everything that we have going on, it can just be a little wild, so it's hard for me. Like Wednesday, I don't know if we're going to have a show or not. We have some stuff we've got to get done. One of our kids is getting some teeth pulled. So I don't know what my Wednesday schedule is going to look like. Plus we have the midweek baseball games. I don't want to go live when those are on. And then Thursday, of course, we have Arkansas. We have the Razorbacks playing the NCAA tournament. So just giving you guys a bit of a heads up. It's going to be kind of crazy. Appreciate everyone who's retweeting the show, liking and retweeting. Make sure you guys, again, I can't tell you how much that means when you guys do that. It does the heart good when you guys do that. So just make sure you like, share, subscribe here, and make sure you're sharing across the socials as I'm trying to get all the retweets out. Trying to get the retweets out. Okay. Shout out to Patreon. Yeah, that clip, that's from Patreon. And that's these people right here had an opportunity to see that. That was Josh Mindman, who's the senior graphic. He basically does all the graphics you see with Razorback football. That's who I interviewed. I had no idea what I was in for. I talked to him about it before we went live, and I was like, man, I say like in the DMs, right? And then we talked about it afterwards. It was awesome. There's a lot there that was. If you're a Patreon supporter, you have access to that video. Only Patreon supporters. You can either look in the Discord Patreon section in the Patreon main chat, or just go to Patreon. If you have the app, which thank God they added this a little while back, but you can pull up everything on your Patreon app. So yeah, and all that extra content will go there. And it goes for anybody that you follow, by the way. I know some of you probably are subscribed to other Patreon stuff. So yeah. Anyways. Yeah. Patreon supporters, you guys are rock stars. Shout out to Direct Service Overhead, the Garage Door Company. Big time sponsors here. They're all big time. All my sponsors are big time, but, Direct Service Overhead are the OGs. They're the OGs. They were the first. They Direct Service Overhead, they offer, what do they offer? Well, they offer it all. Same-day services, emergency service, 24/7, 365 days a year, free estimates, quality parts, affordable outcomes. Give them a call today at 501-244-3667. I mentioned this last week, but they just worked on my neighbor's garage door, and my neighbor was like, I would recommend these guys to anybody. He wasn't just saying that to say it. Alex he'd be honest with me. If he thought they did bad, they didn't. He really liked what they did for him, and it was an affordable price for him as well. So again, if you need any repairs done, hook up, give Direct Service Overhead, the Garage Door Company, a shout out or a call rather. Apex Tattoo Studio, located in Rogers, Arkansas, 201 South 19th Street, Suite P. Walk-ins are welcome. Give them a call at 479-278-2694. Tap-out sessions are available. You get 10% off if you mention Tuss Talk with Ty. And last but certainly not least, the Odd Soul Craft Bar and Pizzeria, located in Springdale, right here on Emma Street. Quality pies, all sorts of stuff. Local IPAs on tap, you name it, they have it. Again, that's Odd Soul Craft Bar and Pizzeria. All right, yeah. So I'm not gonna lie to you. Our running around today has been. I'm a little like I'm tired. I'm not gonna lie about it. I'm pretty exhausted. I thought about doing this tomorrow, but it's like, no, let's go ahead and do this today. Let's do it tonight. We're gonna knock it out. I told you no later than 8, so here we are, right? Shelf life of spring water is 3 years at my previous job. Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's Sam's purified drinking water with flavor enhancing minerals. Flavor enhancing minerals. You don't say. Let's try it. I don't know what I'm in for. I am, if anyone who knows me, who's watching this personally, I'm a borderline germaphobe. Borderline, right? I think most people are borderline germaphobe, but I might take it to the extremes. My family is not allowed to microwave anything in plastic or Tupperware. I try to be conscious of this stuff, right? Like I'm very, like if there's a water bottle left in my car and it's been hot outside, I won't drink the water. I'll pour the water out and I'll throw the bottle in the recycling. I won't drink it. So if anyone who like knows me, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a little outside of his character, but here we go. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. You guys are right. I was being, it's fine. Listen, and I'm the guy, I would drink, I can remember in football, we had the metal, we called it the T-bar, and it just had holes drilled into the top. I'm sure it was rusty, all kinds of great water for you to drink out of that. I've only gotten worse since I've gotten older. I don't know what it is. Something about having kids, maybe. I don't know. I didn't used to be that way. I literally would pat dirt on my scars. Like I don't know. Maybe I did all sorts of crazy jobs too, like crawling houses for Terminex. Dealing with icky termites and bugs. I don't know what's going on with me. They don't bother me. Spiders bother me though. All right, Kavion Henderson tweeting if we want another commit. I don't know if I was talking to someone. They thought that might have been a little preemptive. I don't know what's going on with this next commit. I have no idea. I don't know what he's talking about. Appreciate the Patreon share and chat, Haas. Thank you, man. Hey, Ty, I can't remember a year when injuries so devastated football, basketball, and not a good start at baseball injuries. Yeah, Tim, by the way, Tim. Oh, Red Chrome back there is looking pretty good. Yeah, my God. I mean, Jalen Catalon for football, right? All the injuries you sustained, KJ dealing with his injuries during the season for football. Like key positions, right? Guys that you really needed to not get hurt, got hurt. We did not need Catalon to go down last year, and he did. And it would be the most Arkansas thing ever for him to go to Texas, blow up, have the kind of year that we all knew he was capable of, and then be a first-round draft pick, All-American, so on and so forth. That'd be the most Arkansas thing ever. But then again, not like that didn't happen for Arkansas, with an Alabama transfer and Drew Sanders. But you know what I'm saying, though. Like, they can afford to lose a Drew Sanders. Arkansas can't really afford to lose a Jalen Catalon. And I'm going to tell you something. Safeties have not exactly stood out in spring camp, okay? I'm going to tell you that right now. I've not I haven't seen them a lot. I don't know that I'm sure they're out there. I didn't get a chance to see the secondary very much. But I did see some of them in some cover drills. Guys, they're thin at safety. I'll just say that. Right now, they look a little thin at safety. I'm not going to lie to you. Secondary's dealing with some injuries as well. We know they're dealing with got some guys that are banged up, but again, thank God it's spring. Getting it all out. Get it all out of your system now, right? Let's go to recruiting here really quick. Arkansas picked up a big-time 4-star athlete. I didn't see this coming at all. I had no idea about this. I was literally out and about. I think I was with I just dropped my oldest off at her math tutor, and my phone's like blowing up, something about a commit, and I was like, wait, what? And sure enough, and it was a four-star athlete, 5'11", 5'11 and a half, according to 247, Norreal White, out of St. Martin High School, Ocean Springs, Mississippi. He's part of this 2024 class. He's considered a top 40 athlete from 247 and the composite rankings. He's a top 10 player in the state of Mississippi. That must be nice. Their top 10 players apparently are all 4 stars. Nationally, he's ranked, again, this is according to 247 composite, at 342. Big time player, 0.90 4-star, it looks like, if I'm looking at this correctly. Nationally ranked in the top 400 or top 350 if you want to get technical, at 342. Norreal White, I didn't see this coming. Now, he is an athlete. From what I understand, what quick research I was able to do, and I tried to reach out to people, again, this all just kind of happened out of nowhere. I think the expectations are, correct me if I'm wrong, he's looked at to play in the secondary. He's looked at as a possible someone who's going to play defensive back at Arkansas. I see here that he was crystal balled to Ole Miss. I remember reading his name came across my list of people to look out for somewhere in one of my notes. I really didn't think Arkansas was gonna walk into Mississippi and snag somebody like that. It's not often that Arkansas goes to a place where one of the Mississippi walks into Mississippi and really have to out-recruit the two schools there in Ole Miss and Mississippi State. KJ, I don't recall those schools getting heavily involved until the end. I don't recall, I think it was Ole Miss or maybe Mississippi State. They didn't really get involved in his recruitment until late, and Chad Morris was able to lock KJ in, and clearly that's worked out for Arkansas. But these are guys that, as far as I know, I mean, he holds a whole bunch of offers. Ole Miss, again, was expected according to their crystal ball here. And what brief research I've been able to do, it sounds like they had to go in and out-recruit both these schools, both the Mississippi schools. Again, it's not often that Arkansas – the same could be said of a lot of schools, right? It's not easy to walk into Mississippi and take someone that they really want. You could say the same thing most of the time in the state of Arkansas, although lately, you know – you look at Walker White right now, like Otis told us last week, he still fully expects Arkansas to be on top of his recruitment. Walker White, 4-star quarterback. But at the moment, I think he's clearly locked into where he's going. So we'll have to wait and see. But it's not always easy, though, especially when Houston Nutt was here, Bobby Petrino. Wasn't super easy to walk in here and come out with their prospects, right? To come out with a player that Arkansas really wanted. So this is a good get. This is a big-time get. It's very clear that – and this was a Marcus Woodson guy. Marcus – I told you guys, I love that they picked up Marcus – I've been saying this since they hired Marcus Woodson. This is what they brought him here for. This is why the staff is structured the way they are. Now, we're going to see if they could put together a good product, right? We're going to see if they could put a good product together on the defensive side of things, especially in the secondary. You can't be much worse. I mean, them in Tennessee were atrocious in the secondary. It's very clear they are putting an emphasis on the needs in the secondary. They're putting an emphasis on grabbing these players. You look at what they did with the Baylor defensive backs, the recruiting so far. They're going all in on these kids. And once again – Arkansas, I say once again, I mean, when you combine everything, Arkansas has done a fantastic job of nailing. I mean, look, they don't get very many of these type of prospects. Again, it's kind of hard to fault past coaches because they didn't always have the transfer portal. The NIL wasn't a thing. But Arkansas, and like Otis and I talked about, I think we were recording when we were discussing this. I can't remember. But we talked about how Arkansas, they don't land very often the big-time defensive backs. You know, you could probably in the last 20 years, it seems like it's all been on the offensive side of things, right? When you talk about skill position players, you look at quarterbacks, they've done a pretty good job of going out and grabbing 4-star prospects. They've done a pretty good job. Like, you'll get a 4-star safety and like a guy like Jalen Catalon. But most of their secondary has been, let's just say it's been hit up with a lot of walk-ons. Simeon Blair, Hudson Clark. Hudson Clark was playing the wrong position for far too long, and Simeon Blair, for whatever reason, and I'm not trying to be too hard on the young man, but it's clear that Simeon Blair struggled in the defense. So it's just kind of a sign of where things have been when you look at the last 2 years in the secondary. You know, they just don't sign a lot of high-caliber talent there. And there's it just shows, right? It just shows. And you could make the argument that they've done that in other areas, but they've done more with less. Whereas in the secondary, they've done about as expected when you look at the last several years in recruiting. Auburn has come in Arkansas and got who they've wanted regularly. Well, it's still, I'm talking about the big picture. Yeah, Auburn has come in. You can go all the way back to Michael Dyer. Sure. But what are the odds? Like, when there's top 10, when you look at the top 10 players, you're probably going to get 70% of them. That's a very high volume of player that you're able to recruit out of your own state. And that's not necessarily true that Auburn's got whoever they wanted. That's not exactly accurate. Odom didn't recruit, period. I mean, the job that they did with linebackers, Michael Schur and Barry Odom together, mostly Michael Schur, I think they did a good job of piecing together what worked, and we know that position in that defense was a high-volume position, right? Like, that was a spot that got a lot of production. They got a ton of production, and they got guys that responded and played the position well. They turned guys around like Henry Morgan, who's a former walk-on. You look at the job they did with Christopher Pupal and his recruitment. Jordan Crook, Manny Powell, if Manny Powell is ever 110%, if he's ever 100%, I think we're going to get the Manny Powell that I think that has a pretty high ceiling. I think they did a pretty good job in terms of stars. Yeah, they really didn't. In the transfer portal, they did pretty good, right? I mean, Jackson at defensive end, Drew Sanders, Dwight McLaughlin, Latavius Brinney. I think they did a pretty good job of piecing together, at least from the portal, and sprinkle in some of the recruits. You know, they can't claim Jalen Catalon. We know that. They can't claim him. That was once again, that was the previous staff. But overall, yeah, I mean, Barry Odom, the offense, and that's kind of been the norm here for a while, the offense has out-recruited the defense. Sometimes that's just by design. Sometimes it's because your staff just struggles recruiting, right? You've got pieces on the defensive staff that you think that, well, they're going to develop whatever they bring in. They're going to bring in some 3-star, you know, or maybe even a low-ranked sub 3-star prospect, and then we're going to meld them into or meld and mold. They're gonna mold that player into a better player, right? And I think that's kind of what Odom attempted to do. But the payoff has been what? Like, how many players in the 3 years? That's plenty of time to start looking at how many NFL draft prospects have been produced in the 3 years that those guys have been here, not counting Drew Sanders, right? So I think that's usually a sign of either you're not recruiting well enough or you're not developing well enough, or a mixture of two. We probably won't ever land them, to be honest. Johnny Jones, I don't know what you're – land who? Who are you talking about? I'm here, Ty. What's up, Tony? How you doing? Did I miss you going live last night after Selection Sunday? No, I didn't go live yesterday for that. I went live for Patreon supporters. We did an interview with Razorback football head graphic. Yeah, you need to check it out. Tony Brown, you've been a regular here forever. Sign up for the Patreon, my man. Hey, Ty, listen to you in my brand new Samsung Pod 2 Pros. That's awesome. Am I your first? Am I your first thing that you've listened to in them? Probably not. You said brand new, so you must have just popped them out of the case. Bad time to be an Illinois fan, says Pigpen Woo Pig Suey. What's going on, man? How you doing? Kevion Henderson tweeting if we. Oh yeah, I already read that. Blah 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 blah. Let's see. Plus, there's some. Oh, they're talking about Discord and Patreon. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in that Patreon. All right, I think we're more or less caught up on chat. If you guys have any questions or comments, fire away. I'll do my best to read them. Know that Super Chat will always get priority. All right, what else we have here? So we kind of went over recruiting a little bit. Let's keep going with recruiting because we have some more scrolling down here. Am I reading this name right? Zadavian Sims, that defensive lineman? Yeah. There it is. I see him now. Out of Oklahoma. I guess he had plenty of good things to say on his visit. 6'3", 275-pound defensive lineman, 4-star prospect, .93 on the 247 composite. He had an interesting comment. He said their staff is really going to be hard to pass up on. Again, Sam put an emphasis on fixing the talent issue. I kind of think Barry Odom was really brought in because he's a former head coach. Excuse me, that water's – see what happened? I'm about to die on stream. Way to go. Now I'm canceled on YouTube for saying that I'm going to die on YouTube. Way to go, guys. But I remember Sam talking about Barry Odom as coming in and being a guy that's going to help – that's going to help him with some of the day-to-day functions. I don't know if he actually said that, or if that was just more – maybe he had said that in an interview on the radio, but I can remember – I vaguely remember him having a conversation. I think this might have been a call-in on Josh Pernicini's show, but talking about Barry Odom not only just being the defensive coordinator, but helping him settle in as a brand-new head coach, and Barry Odom coming in and kind of aiding him to some degree in that area. And on top of that, he is at that time considered one of the most respected names as far as defensive coordinators are concerned. I mean, it's one of the reasons why he got hired at Mizzou, right? So I kind of feel like that was the emphasis for Sam, right? And Kendall Briles, a guy that's been around. He's from a family tree that knows how to recruit or knows how to call an offense. Those are his roots, right? And that play call, in that scheme, and what he uses in the veer and shoot. I think Sam was bringing in pieces that he felt the most comfortable with in terms of the on-the-field product, not necessarily as elite recruiters. Now, Kendall could recruit. There's no doubt. I think Kendall could have his pick of the litter when you look at quarterbacks for the most part. Yeah, the big 5 stars are going to always probably go to Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, USC, you name the schools, Clemson. But I think Kendall could recruit. They could go after. It doesn't seem to matter who the wide receiver coach is. They're able to go out and get some good, not even just receivers coach, right? You look at what they did with the tight ends, with essentially 2 different tight end coaches, right? But they're showing that they can go out and get these prospects. And it seems to me like the approach now is they've gone from a proven product. Let's be real. They may have fallen short what we all thought they were capable of doing. I thought they were an 8 wins last year during the regular season. I thought they could have achieved that. I still think they were close to that. Had their secondary been a full, 2 pegs better, which was asking a lot considering how bad they were. But yeah, I feel like this is a different step in terms of his hires. Now, tight end coach is a proven molder of and developer of talent at tight end. But everywhere else, and you look at the job he did closing on these tight ends. He had to close on those guys. He did that, right? And you look at what's happening on defense and what they've been able to do in terms of recruiting. Again, it's always, or at least under Sam, it seems to me like they've done a better job when it comes from the high school ranks in recruiting high school prospects. But now they've gone into a new direction where it's not so much about, well, I just need to make sure I have a good product on the field that's not laughable. You look at the Chad Morris era, the end of the Sam Pittman era, or the Brett Bielema era. The product on the field was disgusting. It was discombobulated. I'm hearing more and more, by the way, going to these camps, going to spring camp, which I'm going to talk about here in just a minute. I'm learning more and more about Chad Morris's system and how he did things at practice and how chaotic it was. I guess he would come to practice with like a headset on and was screaming through the headset and nobody knew what he was saying. It was pure chaos. Sam is obviously avoiding that, but I think Sam, that initial staff was put together to put something on the field that wasn't a laughingstock and guys that he believed in, right? And it worked. It worked out under his leadership. Now, I'm not trying to pump him up to be some elite. Obviously, he's no Nick Saban, right? But he is certainly a guy that coaches want to coach for, and he knows how to get a staff together that can put a good product on the floor or on the field. We've seen that in 3 years. Say what you want about last year. Like I said, they may have fallen short on our expectations, but it is so much better than what we saw. I'm not saying you need to be pleased with that. I'm not saying that you have to be pleased with that. I'm not saying that you should be just fine, happy, all whatever, all cheese shucks, Sam. We're fine with a 6-6 season. Not saying that. Just simply saying I think that was kind of, those 3 years happened the way they did for a reason. It could have been a lot worse. Now we're going in a direction with his hires, guys that have a very high recruiting acumen, the ability to go into states like South or the southern part of Georgia, go into Florida, go into areas where we don't have normal pipelines and pull some of these guys out. The way that Petrino was able to do. I can remember Petrino going after guys in Southern California, going after guys in parts of Texas we don't normally recruit, going after guys in Florida, pulling people out of Florida. I remember when they recruited Michael Smith. This was Houston Nutt. I remember when he pulled Michael Smith. You remember he had that 1,000-yard season under Petrino year one, but he was a Houston Nutt guy. That was interesting. I remember that being kind of the talk. Well, they got this kid out of Florida. This kid's a little scatback. He's fast as hell. How did we pull him out of Florida? It was a big deal. Petrino was able to build on top of that, right? He was able to go and grab these big-time prospects, out of state, out of these big states that we don't normally have pipelines to. Bielema was able to do it as well. You look at Alex Collins, Denver Kirkland, Dan Skipper, Frank Ragnow. I mean, these guys that are from the Midwest, from the Rust Belt, all the way down to Florida, and we definitely got away from that. Chad recruited at a very high level, but he recruited to the pipelines, right? And that was supposed to be one of his strengths, and it worked. But they didn't have a good product on the floor or on the field. God, I'm still in basketball mode. They didn't have a good product on the field. He put such an emphasis on recruiting that he forgot, oh, shit, we got to know what to do on the field. Everything I hear, the more and more I hear about Chad Morris's practices, the more it just makes sense. And I remember in post-game shows saying, boy, they just look discombobulated on the sidelines. No one looks like they know what they're doing. Sam, I think, learned from that, right? And that's why he went with Barry Odom and why he went with Kendall Briles, guys that he knew, that he trusted in, that were going to put something that wasn't laughable. So, saying all that to say, you're seeing the blueprint now with this new angle with the staff. These are guys that can recruit. These are guys that, I mean, you heard Zadavion Sims. Their staff is going to be really hard to pass up on. And you just picked up another big time 4-star defensive back. Who recruited him? Who is his active recruiter? I already talked about it. Marcus Woodson, the newest addition, one of the newest additions to the defense, right? Well, they're all new outside of Deke. But, yeah, the emphasis is paying off, and that's the emphasis. We're going to recruit. Now let's hope they put a better product on the field. I think they will. I mean, Marcus Woodson should know what he's doing, right? I mean, with the background that he has. Did you see the LSU recruit Xavier Atkins with the Hogs glove? I did see that. I did. I was actually going to screen cap that and show it off, but I forgot. Sam will not schedule a game with Georgia again till we at least get 3 5-stars or more, says Johnny Jones. Oh, I mean, that's not how that really works, though. Oh, let's see. What do you think about our draw in the tournament? Yeah, we'll get there. You guys know we go piece by piece, right? We're going to get there. Trying to scroll down. Again, he's a big-time 4-star. I'm going to have to get caught up on him. I'm going to have to find out where he's at. Aaron Noland, 4-star quarterback, is on campus. He's been favored to Auburn for a while. 6'3", 195-pound dual-threat quarterback. Lefty. He's a left-handed quarterback. Dan Enos is recruiting him. This is interesting. They are, again, they're still talking with Walker White. They're still talking with some other quarterbacks from what I understand. But this 2024 Aaron Noland, this would be a big get if you could pull him out of Fairborn, Georgia, Langston Hughes High School. Offers from Clemson, Miami, A&M, Alabama. But Dan Enos, it looks like, is the lead recruiter there. So I don't know that Dan necessarily I don't know what his reputation is as a recruiter. I remember some of the guys that he went after, and don't really recall any of them working out for one reason or another. James M says, I'm excited for this season this fall. Yeah, for sure. Auburn gets Walker White. We take Aaron Noland. I'll take the trade. Yeah, I think I would take that trade as well. I agree. Arkansas baseball might be in for quite the doozy this week with UNLV. Now, yeah, UNLV's not very good. I don't know if they're going to actually pitch. I don't know what they're going to do out of their bullpen because all 3 of their games were canceled against Cal Poly this last weekend. So regardless, they're going to those were arms that wouldn't have been available because they just got done pitching either, Saturday or Sunday, one of those later games. This was March. So they're supposed to play, it looks like, a doubleheader on the 11th and then play on the 12th. So that would have been yesterday. So a doubleheader on Saturday and then play yesterday. So, yeah, their bullpen could have been depleted. And it went from, of course, it depends on, how Cal Poly did at the plate, so on and so forth. But they're going to be full go in the bullpen. So, yeah, they're not good. Like UNLV's 5-8. They're 1-2 already in the Mountain West Conference, but they're 5-8. They're not good. Arkansas should take care of business, but it is a midweek game. Anything goes in these midweek games, and we know how Dave Van Horn approaches these, like all Power 5 coaches, especially in the SEC. But Arkansas right now, 13-2. They start conference play on the 17th. Auburn's coming to town, and then after that, you got to go on the road to Baton Rouge. I wish we could trade those. Let's go to Auburn. Let's bring LSU here. Is it too late to do that? You only have one midweek game, according to D1 Baseball, Southeast Missouri State. For some reason, I thought they had 2 there, but they don't. LSU, at LSU. Then you've got Omaha on March 28, and then you've got Alabama, who got off to a really hot start. What were they? Were they 15-0? I think now they've lost 2 straight. Or they lost 2 or 3 against Columbia. So they just dropped a series to Columbia. So all that hype just to lose a series to a non-conference opponent. Not that matters because college baseball, these group of 5 or whatever you want to call them in the college baseball equivalent, you can lose to any of these teams. I mean, it's just not the same like football. Basketball is kind of the same way, but I think basketball, it's even more Like there's even more adversity in those group of 5 or group of however many conferences. I mean, there's some good, there's some good non-household name programs in baseball, a lot. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that we can judge too much. I don't know a ton about Columbia, but Alabama did drop that series. Spring camp. Do we want to go to Razorback spring camp, or do we want to talk about Illinois real quick and then go to spring camp? I don't know. Listen, I'll be real honest with you. I do not even want to talk about Illinois just yet. I'll talk about some of the games I'm intrigued in with the tournament. I have not had the time to really sit down and break Illinois down. What I do know, and I really wanted to say, I want to save this for either a Thursday show. Hell, we might just do a pregame show on Wednesday, like shortly before tip-off. No, wait, I won't be able to do that because it's a 3:30 tip-off, right? I don't know how that's going to go. We may have to do a show on Wednesday. I do want to do an Illinois breakdown. I just didn't want to do it tonight because I haven't done on the surface. I know they're pretty even. Statistically, they're pretty even with Arkansas in a lot of categories. I know they're not good. They're not a great outside shooting team, but I think they take more three-point shots than Arkansas does outside. They're not very good at the free throw line. I've done some very light reading on them. A lot of people seem to think that it might actually be a more even matchup than both sides even realize. I guess they haven't struggled a whole lot against big guards, but then I've read elsewhere where they have. So this is why I kind of wanted to steer clear of just talking about that game, but I will say the bracket, I don't care. A&M got hosed. Listen, I don't care. I hate that we look back in what a team did in December or November or January. I'm kind of going all over the place there. And all of a sudden think that, well, no, see, you lost some games you shouldn't have lost early on in the year. So we're going to put you as a 7 seed despite the fact that you finished with the second best record in conference play. You had a really good net ranking. Oh, and you finished second in the tournament, in your conference tournament. We're going to push you back to a 7 seed. I think A&M, they passed the eye test, should have been at least a 5 seed. But, again, this also goes to show you, again, that these conference tournaments don't do much of anything. They might have some impact on some teams. But just talking about, like, seeding, I wouldn't have done Arkansas any good to play Alabama in the SEC championship game. Had you won, maybe it pushes you up. I don't know, a spot if you're lucky. But Arkansas ends up, I think it just doesn't matter. I think regardless, you were going to be an 8 seed. I don't think no matter what the outcome was, you were going to be an 8 seed. So they're matched up against Illinois. Yeah, I stand by. I think A&M should have been a higher seed. I'm sure someone's going to disagree with that. That's fine. What sucks for them is if they get past Penn State, they're more than likely going to have to play Texas. Now, we know Texas is without Beard. Yeah. Beard, by the way, I'm sure as many of you are very well aware of. Did he sign with Ole Miss? Is that a done deal? I think it is. That's incredible. Like, you're telling me he could. Here's what I think would happen with that. I really think as soon as the charges were dropped on him, as soon as he was let go of Texas, his agent, and I don't know who his agent is. It might be you know who. I have no idea. I feel like he got on the phone with either athletic directors or BOTs somewhere. I think they got on the horn and they said, "How interested are you in our guy?" And I think they all passed on him. It's too fresh. It's too fresh. I don't care that the charges were dropped. It's like, I don't know, man. It's kind of like it's too fresh. This just happened. He just got, what was this, 2 months ago when the charges were dropped? Like, what is going on? Like, SEC basketball has the worst reputation right now. I mean, this goes back all the way to when Bruce Pearl was hired at Auburn. Like, people thought, oh, that guy's slimy. Why is he at Auburn? What's going on? Like, the reputation is just win no matter what, no matter the moral cost. Listen, again, I don't even want to go that deep into the Beard situation. I know that he was, the charges were dropped. I get that. But it's still it just looks like a move of desperation on both sides. Ole Miss is a heaping pile of shit in college basketball. Guys, I'm pretty sure they have as many tournament bids as Arkansas has Sweet 16 appearances. I'm pretty sure that's right. It's abysmal. Like, they're not supposed to hire someone like that. And I mean, good for them, and it's going to rise. The SEC's just taking another step up, right? The quality of coaches. Say what you want about what Beard did and what Bruce Pearl did, and of course Bruce Pearl's nowhere near serious what Beard was accused of. But, or what did he have? No. He definitely wasn't accused of strangling anybody. But it just feels like this conference gives no shits. Like, yeah, no, we're good. Look at the Will Wade situation, right? That guy should have been terminated. The day that documentary aired to the public on I think it was HBO, and you catch him on the damn phone saying what he said, the next day LSU should have been like, bye, you're too much. We could talk about the Nate Oates situation, whether or not you think Brandon Miller should be locked up or whatever. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. But the way they handled that situation was so shit poor. And here we go again, where a guy who just had these charges dropped, bing, bang, boom, Ole Miss is all over it. Now, look, some people outside of Arkansas would say, yeah, well, what about Kendall Briles going to Arkansas? Okay, you could say that, but he wasn't charged for cheating, and he wasn't charged for unlawful, the shit that happened with Brandon Miller. Sure, it wasn't on the surface, was not a good look. It wasn't. I can fully agree with that. I think it's less serious than some of the stuff these other coaches and these other programs have pulled in terms of his comment about white women on campus. Now, if there was some other stuff that I don't know about, or maybe I'm forgetting, I apologize. I think that was the worst of the accusations on Kendall, was something about white girls on campus. Yeah, that's distasteful. Not cool. But the accusation, what happened at Alabama, the way Nate Oates handled a basketball player that should have been at the very least in January when all this shit was going down, and Nate Oates admits that, yeah, we knew what was going on. Why did you not suspend Brandon Miller until more details became public? And you could throw in Kendall Briles. Throw him into the pile. I don't really care. It's just not a good look for the SEC. I think those are more recent. At least with the Kendall Briles situation, you had a gap of time. This is like, we don't care. We want to win now. That's what matters. And the Will Wade stuff still, like they kept him on campus. He's caught red-handed. Nothing happens until LSU starts to slide. Then they let go of him. Yeah, they made it into the tournament, but they knew they weren't going anywhere. Too big of a distraction off the floor. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time in the Beard situation, just like Miller. I don't know. Old Mississippi burning. Beard could have got a better job. Too. Kind of shocked. Yeah, again, I think really he put the fillers out. His agent put the fillers out. Nobody wanted anything to do with him. The SEC was like, we'll take him. Go back to the Urban Meyer stuff when he was at Florida. It's college athletics. It's not just the SEC. It's just something else, man. I mean, I don't know. Listen, if this sort of stuff happens at Arkansas, you can expect I'm going to call it out. And the Kendall Briles stuff was distasteful, and that was not cool. That was not cool. Now, should they have not hired him? I mean, that whole situation was dirty. It really was. It doesn't really make a difference what I think there, but I mean, or any of this other stuff. But I do think, and I hope that Hunter Yurachek, I hope they all just, I don't know, think a little harder on some of these hires. It's just not a good look for the schools. It's not always a good look for the conference. I am a little bit more surprised that Sankey and the higher ups at the SEC. I mean, they pulled that stuff with Hugh Freeze, or the SEC didn't. There was no rule, but I guess they more or less said after the Hugh Freeze situation, it was kind of frowned upon by the front office of the SEC. It was more of a frowned upon type of thing. There's no rule. I don't believe that they couldn't hire Hugh Freeze. But the right thing was done, but only because Ole Miss was forced to do the right thing, right? It was all out in the air. It was all out in the public. Typical Bama behavior, says Wu Pig. Yeah. And I don't know how to feel. I don't know all the details of the Kendall Brow stuff, but that's not cool either. What he did was not cool. Was not a good look. I mean, he didn't repeat the behavior here, and that certainly matters, right? What was Criswell's record at North? Why are you talking about Criswell? Criswell, I don't know what you guys are going on. Kendall washed all his stank off at Florida State, though. I think, yeah, there was time, right? That's all I'm saying. Like, maybe pump the brakes, give it time. Like, optics matter. I don't know. Big 12 fired 2 coaches for even appearing racist and fires Beard. SEC morals. What's that? I mean, you remember and I think there was a bit of an overreaction to Gundy's situation with a shirt that he wore fishing. But I mean, Oklahoma State said, we're not about that. Take the shirt off. I mean, I don't know. It's really just it's just not a good look, especially that quickly. I think it's a little bit more, and it's not to say that time washes away everything, right? Time doesn't wash away all your sins or whatever, but it shows a lack of empathy for the situation. And maybe the empathy, maybe that time is part of the empathy. Like, okay, look, we understand the timing, and that's why the optics matter and the timing matters. We have whole different conversations. I know it's been this way for the last several streams. It's so hard for me to keep up with you guys. I sometimes I'm just like, what the hell's going on? No sympathy for Aggies. Vandy are the ones that got screwed. They weren't even first 4 out. Thought they should have been first 4 out, and I do agree with that. I think you can have sympathy for both, though, Elvin. I think both deserve – Aggies deserve a higher seeding, and I think Vandy should have been in the first 4 out. Absolutely. All right, let's get into the spring camp. To put a button on, or to put a nice, neat bow on that conversation about Beard, again, final thing I'll say is optics matter, and I think it shows a little bit more, it's showing to be more empathetic to the situation. When you just hire a guy like that, I mean, what kind of vetting did Ole Miss do? Now, I know they fired their head coach a little while back, but I still think that it shows. It's just like the Brandon Miller situation. Whether you think he's guilty for what he did, bringing the gun, whatever side you're on that, I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we all think. What Alabama should have done just to show empathy towards the situation and for clarity, for the situation, and what they perceived to be the right thing to do would have been to suspend him for a little while, at least until the rest of the details came out throughout the case. And they didn't do that. They didn't do that at all. And they know that they can't do that. Now, they've got good players on that team. They've got some good players, without a doubt. I mean, they're still a really competitive – they're still a tournament team without Brandon Miller. But without Brandon Miller, they're not a 1 seed right now. Let's be real. Had they lost Brandon Miller, let's say for 6-7 games, they're not 1 seeds right now. I mean, he bailed them out quite a bit. He's shown off plenty of times, especially around the time of January into February. He showed out several times how he could just take a game over. And he did that. You look at Arkansas and the damage he did to Arkansas and to other programs, to other basketball teams. They know that without him, they're not the 1 seed right now. They're probably not regular season champs. That probably goes to A&M, and they probably don't win the SEC tournament without him. So that's also going to be very interesting. Final thing about the bracket. Final thing I'll say, too, about Arkansas and Illinois. I'm fine with the 8 seed. At the end of the day, they dug their own grave. Certainly believe at the beginning of the year, if you would have told me they would end up where they ended up in the SEC in terms of ranking or wins and losses and league play, and that they end up an 8 seed, I would have been shocked. My first question would have been, who the hell got hurt? That would have been my first question, and clearly they struggled without Brazil and without Nick Smith for that period of time. So now they're trying to shoehorn Nick Smith into this system, into the chemistry. Maybe some players aren't feeling it. I mean, look at the player. The Council has lost minutes. It's cut into other players' minutes. It's cut into the rotation. It's just they're trying to shoehorn, and they should try to shoehorn Nick Smith in because he is that caliber of player. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have. I'm not saying that at all. But it's why you're an 8 seed, right? The injuries do matter. The lack of chemistry, especially right around the time shortly after Nick came back, it just seemed to me like, boy, they turned the corner. And then Nick Smith comes back. It was kind of mixed up there the first couple of games in terms of minutes played. And then you see the offensive explosion. You look at what they did on the road to Bama and the 2 games following against, not as great programs. But you could see it, and we were all talking about it. You guys in chat and myself, boy, they turned the corner. And then it all just fell apart. And it's just never – I don't think that they've ever found that chemistry. I don't think that they ever found it and figured it out. But I don't mind the 8. I would really care less, the 8 or the 9. Again, I kind of figured that's where they would end up somewhere around there, and that's where they ended up. They're going to have – if they get past Illinois, they got to play Kansas. Again, we're going to do either a pregame show or if I have time, I'll try and do a show on Wednesday. I want to talk more about this Arkansas and Illinois game. We'll get caught up again on some more. I'm planning on being at practice tomorrow if I can make it. It's 4 p.m. That's right. That's going to give me not a lot of time to show up, but I'm going to haul ass to Fayetteville, try to get there so I can watch some more of the spring camp. I obviously won't be able to go on Thursday. That's the other day everyone gets another opportunity to see them, to see the Razorbacks in spring camp. I don't know how to feel about KU. I don't know. How many losses do they have as a 1 seed? Is it 7? They're let's see. Let's look at their well, it doesn't show me their record. It's 7 losses if I remember right, and I caught them a couple of times. They don't blow you away, but you kind of worry a little bit. Is the stuff with the head coach a little bit of a distraction for KU? What's going on with again, they had some losses this year that were head scratchers, some big losses. Don't know anything about Howard. I don't know anything about them as the 16 seed. But if you get past Illinois, Kansas, listen, I honestly wouldn't have minded if it were Purdue or KU. Now, the teams I don't want to deal with, I think Alabama's bracket at first glance, that's kind of tough, man. I mean, San Diego State I think they've gotten even better since Arkansas played them. And you remember how that game unfolded. That was actually a pretty crazy game. Don't know a lot about Virginia's situation, but I did read somewhere where someone thought that Virginia might be the team to beat in the tournament. Don't know if that was how credible that was. Creighton will be interesting. You remember Arkansas played them as well. Baylor, Missouri, Arizona is in that bracket. I don't know. Is that the toughest bracket? In the let's see, in Houston's bracket, Auburn's over there, Iowa, Miami. I've seen several Final Four predictions with Miami in the Final Four. Indiana at the 4 seed, Iowa State at the is that 6 or 5? Looks like 6. Xavier is in that. They're at the 3. They're in the 3 seed. A&M is at the 7. Texas is at the 2. Penn State at the 10. Let's see. Purdue. How about Oral Roberts and Duke? Round 1, 12 versus the 5 there. You know who is at ORU. Oral Roberts right out the gate with Duke. That might actually be an intriguing game. I would take Duke, but that could be one of those games that's like, might want to take a deeper look at that one. Tennessee's going to play Louisiana. Too highly seeded. I don't think Tennessee should have been the 4, but it doesn't shock me. I would probably swap. Honestly, I'd swap them in A&M. And that might be a little high for A&M at the 4 seed, but I still don't think – I think they're more deserving of it than Tennessee is. Kentucky takes on Providence. Kansas State, that's a tough one. Michigan State, and then Marquette is also in that bracket as well. And then with Arkansas in the Kansas bracket, KU, I'm not willing to say that Arkansas is dangerous. Nick Smith being back, but we've seen Arkansas with Nick Smith back, and I mean, yeah, their offense at times clicks, and then at other times they go on 6.5-minute scoring droughts. I mean, I just don't look at Arkansas. Maybe I'm wrong. I have such a hard time seeing them advance, and I don't even think this bracket is that. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if someone out of this bracket won the whole thing. It wouldn't shock me, but yeah, I don't know. Gonzaga's at the 3 seed. UCLA is, and I know they've got an injury they're dealing with, but UCLA might be the team if they can overcome some adversity in the injury department. Could be the 2 seed. That could be the seed out of this bracket to win it all. I was talking to my dad actually about that earlier. If they can respond to some injury adversity, UCLA might be pretty dangerous. But KU is KU. I mean, they know what they're doing. So Arkansas's bracket, there is no easy bracket, but at first glance, I almost look at Alabama's bracket, and that's something else right there. That I don't know, man. There's some salty teams in that bracket. Arizona, Baylor, Missouri is probably of all the 7 seeds. They might be the best 7 seed. Well, between them and maybe A&M, right? Who's the 7 in ours? Northwestern, okay, and then Michigan State is the other. I don't know. That's pretty tough. Who would you rather play, Missouri or A&M? On a neutral floor. I don't know, man. I think Arkansas's already lost on a neutral floor to A&M, so. But it is a different time of year, right? Ty, you just said what's been on my mind this whole time. Nick Smith Jr. really messed with somebody's vibe. I do believe that, and I'm not blaming Nick Smith. I think it's just figuring out the again, we're going to say this over and over, but for Muss to figure out the right rotation, the right chemistry, I don't know that it just always clicks. And the tricky part is that sometimes it does with a certain same 5 out on the floor, and then sometimes it doesn't. And then sometimes those same 5 that are clicking don't match up well against some of these other teams that force them to shoot the ball a little more. Arkansas gets their buckets down in the paint. They're so matchup dependent this year. I just don't see them as a threat. Muss could prove everybody wrong, including myself. If let's say they do somehow make it, I really think it'd be a miracle for them to get to the Sweet 16. Now, I know people say they match up well against KU. Maybe they do, but step at a time. We'll focus on Illinois. I promise either Wednesday or Thursday we will do a pregame at some point. This time of year is just nuts. It is so nuts. I don't know that we have slow weeks in this household, though. I don't know that we do. Especially doing this and the time and the energy that I put into this. It's like, it's crazy. I don't just sit down and talk. Like, I have a whole script. I've got all these notes. Sometimes a lot of times I go off script, and then I put my foot in my mouth. Connor Vanover and Desi both in tournament with different teams that play better than Arkansas. Well, I mean, Gary, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, is Oral Roberts better than Arkansas? I mean, they are a 12 seed, right? I don't know. That's tough. Listen, if they were to move back to a 12 seed, if Arkansas, I don't know that I would argue with it. I really don't. I know the net rankings love them. We're going to find out. Like, if all these SEC teams, if none of, let's say only one or two make it to the Sweet 16 or one gets into the Elite 8 again, we're going to have to start questioning, like, how accurate the net rankings really are. Because they did something similar last year. I forgot how many they put in last year. It seems like it was 7. But only one team the last 2 years out of the SEC has been able to advance into the Elite 8, and that's been Arkansas. So I just don't know that I'm buying 8 teams. Is that right, in the SEC? Like, I just don't know that I'm buying that. I hope they prove me wrong, because it just shows that this conference maybe has taken that big step into the right direction. And now you got this big time coach at Ole Miss. God, you boy, oh boy. That's still Beard at Ole Miss. That's just like I don't know. He's going to have to polish up a turd over there, right? I mean, Ole Miss is, God, they're garbage. That's a real poverty basketball program. That's a poverty basketball program, man. I mean, I'm pretty sure they've had, like, 8 NCAA appearances. I think I saw a little while back. Maybe I'm mixing them up with someone, but it's not good. I don't think it's very good. I know their history is not great, and he's going there. Like, they're supposed to hire the mid-major coaches, right? Or the guys kind of the up-and-comers, or the, I don't know. Congrats if you're an Ole Miss fan and you're watching this. Congrats, you got a hell of a coach. But he's coming with a lot of baggage, and I don't know that it always pays off. I kind of wonder what his contract and what his extension is going to look like. Are you doing a bracket challenge like last year? I am. I need to get that set up. I might try and do that tonight or tomorrow. Looks like Arkansas will get beat in the first round or makes the 8. Arkansas gets past in first round or makes the 8. So you think that if they get past the first round, they're going to the Elite 8? I don't know, man. I have heard that they match up well with KU. I've been told this over and over. But there's still some other games here that you could potentially run into that might be pretty hazardous to your health. UCLA, Gonzaga, TCU, UConn. Like, I don't know. And because Arkansas is so matchup dependent, just don't know that I like them. Now, maybe we'll see them. Wouldn't it be something? And I know someone's going to say, they're going to prove you all wrong, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I've put Arkansas back into the tournament weeks ago. I've said all along, they're going to make the tournament. I say all along, not all along. I took them out. I'll be a man about it. I took them out. I did. But I also said they'll get in. And then when I went back on that, when I said, no, okay, they're in, they showed me that they're in. But mostly that was because of the net rankings, right? The net rankings helped them out a lot this year, without a doubt. But then I also said in the back end of February, they don't look like a tournament team to me, but it's hard to tell because you're not in a tournament, right? In the SEC tournament, they did get a win, but that's not the same as the NCAA. And the reason why, or March Madness, the NCAA tournament, the reason why they don't look like a tournament team to me is because we've seen the Mitchell twins completely disappear in these games. The formula to beat Arkansas seems to be pretty damn simple, and a lot of teams have figured it out. There are average teams that make it into the NCAA tournament. Maybe Arkansas is one of them, and maybe they'll get past Illinois. I mean, I'm not ready to say one way or another yet. Again, I'll talk about that on the pregame show. I might have them as they're in, but they're out. I might have them in that category. I might pick Illinois in that first game, but they're so much more matchup dependent, and they've shown the guys that they really need to bring it, the Mitchell twins, have completely vanished against teams that you wouldn't think they would, against average to below average to above average competition, and players that they're matched up with down in the paint. We've seen them disappear and not have an impact. I have no faith there. I have no faith when Arkansas is forced to score outside or 15 feet away or out in the perimeter. I have no faith that they're going to when you need them to knock down the three and to be consistent out on the perimeter. The free throw shooting is another problem, right? They're really good at getting to the free throw line, but they're not making them. They're sub 60. What are they, 60? Whatever. They're sub 70%. Not a very good free throw shooting team. The good news there is neither is Illinois. And they don't shoot very well outside either. But like I said when was that? Last week, right? Pretty sure it was last week. I said that they're going to be matchup dependent. Well, I've said that for weeks, and they will get to the tournament. I just wasn't sold that they would go far, and I wasn't sure they would get past the first round. I'm still not sure they do, but I don't know a bunch on Illinois. So, yeah, Illinois is very good. Says damn dude, they were down by 21 points against Purdue and came back and almost won. Yeah, and how often has Arkansas blown double-digit leads this year? I mean, there's just nothing about this team. They have shown themselves, and something that I was talking with, actually, I think it was my dad, Arky56. I don't know if he's in chat or not, but something I said to him weeks ago. I said, the first indication that there was something wrong with this team, we just maybe took it for granted or didn't look heavy enough into it, was the Texas preseason scrimmage. They got blasted. Now, you could say, well, Texas is just that good, but, I mean, we thought Arkansas was a legit top 3 seed team at that point in time. Texas bounced them around like they were nothing. What was the score of that game? They won by like 30 points. And there have been other signs since then, right? The inconsistency in January and then, of course, February. Yeah, I'm not sold on them. I'm not. Maybe I said that. I don't remember saying that last year. Maybe I did. But, boy, this team sure looks like they're going to struggle. I just think they're going to struggle. Okay. The last part we already talked about. We got recruiting out of the way. We've gone over the NCAA tournament. We talked about the Beard situation, spring camp. So we went to 2, and I've kind of gone over this a little bit. Patreon supporters, if you were here on Sunday or if you've watched that video, you probably have heard some of this already. But I talked about this Sunday in our Patreon live show. I will say and I'm going to always remind people that it's still we're in the first week of spring. You can't take any of this to the bank. You can't take any of this, very far. You can't look at this and say, oh, well, we're doomed, or, oh, well, we're going to be great. I have not been blown away. I have not been blown away by anything that I've seen from the quarterbacks. Criswell looks raw. I think a lot of that has to do with he's trying to get in sync with the receivers. You're not going to do that. Hell, you're not going to do that in spring sometimes. Sometimes that's going to take you through fall camp, right? You start to develop those relationships with those players. You start them now. It goes all the way through summer camp. It goes all the way through fall camp. It is, like I said, we're at the very, very beginning of this. We just went through the entrance doors. So take that with a grain of salt. I haven't been very impressed with anybody at the quarterback spot outside of KJ when we're just watching them throw the ball. Now, it's not to say that Criswell hasn't done a good job at all. There was a whole session apparently where he looked pretty good, and I was off watching the receivers. I missed it, so maybe there's a possibility there where he looked really good. But when I have watched him, and again, I have not watched him the entirety, I've kept an eye on him and the freshman quarterback. From what I have seen, he's pretty raw. He's got it. It's going to take some time. Dan's going to have to work with him. The receivers, again, I think they're all trying to find their spots. Tesla at times at times has looked pretty good. At other times, he's looked like a guy from a really small school. He looked a little raw. I think he's recorded a couple of drops. They're just now trying to shed off their skin, right? They're trying to shed off their skin, and they're trying to get ready for that next level at Arkansas. Some of these kids come in from schools like that, right? It's going to take some getting used to. He certainly looks like, oh, wow, this is a big deal here. I mean, I could see it on his face, right? And I'm not saying that there are things here that he's never seen before in his life. I'm not saying that at all. But the system and the way they do things, right? The way Sam Pittman runs his practice, the way he runs his spring camp, I think it's just a little bit. It's a bit of there's a shock factor for some of these guys, and I think we're seeing a little bit of that. But at times, Tesla's looked really good. I mean, so yeah, I wouldn't panic. There's nothing like I do not. If I were to sit here and go, oh, my God, I'm blown away, this guy, blah, 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 I would say, that, again, it would be the same thing. Take it with a grain of salt, right? Or it could be that corners are that good. It could be that. I mean, it could. It very well could be that. I don't know. I mean, we thought that last year, though. We did. Coming out of spring camp, that's what I thought we saw on the red white, or what we saw on SEC Network, and what we thought we saw through fall camp was, oh, okay, maybe the corners or the receivers are that. It's the other side of the ball. We thought the receivers were that good. It turns out the corners were that bad. But coming out of spring camp, we thought that the corners or the secondary was rough, right, or good. Sorry, they were good. And we felt like a lot of that came from Sam Pittman's own mouth when he was asked about the secondary, and he felt his own words. We talked about this last week. In his own words, he felt comfortable in the two deep at every spot in the secondary. So who knows, right? I think that if anything, it's just these guys trying to adapt to a new place, right? And how practice is conducted. I think by the end of spring, if we haven't seen many changes, then we might be like, oh, okay, shit. They better get it figured out throughout the summer and then fall camp. And we know how that works throughout the summer. That's going to be the players coming together, right? Coaches are a little bit more limited. And then fall camp, they better get this shit figured out. If by the end of spring camp, we're all like, oh boy, they still look pretty raw. We'll have that conversation, right? I feel like the natural progression of things will pick up, right? I think they'll eventually they'll be at a spot where they feel pretty comfortable with. That's not to say that they've all looked bad. That's not the case at all. Cam Ball blew up a play on fastball. I mean, oh my God, he blew the play up. He was there in the backfield before they even realized. I mean, Cam looked explosive. I'm pretty sure that was Cam. I'm almost positive that was Cam Ball. The depth chart right now, as it stands, and again, don't take much with it, but KJ, of course, is with the ones. I've seen Cade Fortin work with the twos. That's natural. I think Sam wants his transfers to come in with the threes and try to work their way up. Wouldn't shock me if by the end of this thing that Jacoby or maybe even Malachi. I mean, Malachi at times has looked pretty good, if I'm being honest. I've kind of liked a little bit. Some of his throws have looked pretty on point, at least just when they're throwing the ball back and forth. Fastball, not always, right? Sometimes he's been a little bit off. But Malachi or Jacoby, I think, have it in them to pass up Cade Fortin. You know, Cade, who's a super senior. He's a super-duper senior. But Cade's been here a while. Sometimes that experience just matters, and it can carry you. The running backs has been rocket with the ones. DeBinion has been getting work with the twos. A.J. Green with the threes. But I think there's been a little bit of a mix-up there. So, again, I'm not saying DeBinion is the second running back, but I'm pretty sure I saw him take some reps there with the twos. Receivers, it's been Samuel Bakke. Tyrone Broden has looked fast. The 6'7" transfer. Tyrone Broden has looked very fast. Andrew Armstrong made a snag on the sidelines. It was really impressive. He made the snag, and it caught the way he positioned his body and the way he he planted his foot in the ground and kind of went through the defender. Now, they weren't tackling. They weren't full pads. This wasn't a scrimmage, but the position that he was in, it put the corner, and I don't remember who was covering him, but it put the corner basically out of the play. And I think had he been in full pads and that was full speed, I think that would have been a touchdown. That would have been down the sidelines, but they blew the whistle. It certainly looked to me like he was going to break out. But that was Andrew Armstrong. Landon Rogers has actually looked. He's had a couple of looks. Landon Rogers, you remember him? Kid out of Little Rock, redshirt sophomore, has moved 3 different positions. You know, I'm not sure that that's even over with. Wouldn't shock me at all to see them move him again. But he's worked in with the 3s and 4s. Jaden Wilson and Isaac Tesla have been the other outside receivers. And then your inside guy mostly has been Isaiah Centennia. I put out a TikTok. Sorry, I don't have a TikTok. I do, but I don't do anything with it. A YouTube short of Tesla on some of his drills. There was some more stuff that I went back and watched. Isaiah Centennia. There was some more stuff that I went back and watched. He's making grabs. He's turning it upfield. He's again, he's a redshirt freshman, but he's not going to have that. He wasn't here last spring. You guys may not, I don't know if some of you recall, but one of my big hangups was, man, I really wish he was here during the spring so he'd have a heads up and maybe an opportunity to kind of move up, and get a chance to kind of show off what he can do. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but fortunately, he caught the red shirt, right? He didn't play. I think as a result of him not being here during the spring, it put him a little bit behind in the fall, and it forced him to, we're going to red shirt him, and they did. But him and Bryce Stevens have both looked pretty smooth. At tight end, it's been a mix of Ty Washington and Nathan Bax with the ones, with Luke Hawes and Zach Lee. I don't know a whole lot about Zach Lee other than I'm pretty sure he's a junior. I don't really remember his recruitment, if I'm being honest. I'm pretty sure he's a walk-on. Boy, we can go down this entire list. Offensive line, I think it's kind of a mix. Brady Latham at left tackle. Devin Manuel, who I think ends up as the starting left tackle, but I could be wrong. Let's see. Patrick Kutas has been with the ones. Terry Wells behind him. At center, it's been Bo Limmer. Josh Street behind him. Josh Street has struggled snapping the ball. Pretty sure I've seen him get chewed. I'm pretty sure that was him that got chewed out when they were indoors, when they were day one. That was day one. Pretty sure he was the one that got chewed out in fastball. Now, I could be wrong. He struggled a little bit, but listen, not anyone can just snap that ball. You may think it's an easy job, but the center carries quite a bit of responsibility. And so I'm pretty sure that was him. If it wasn't him, it would have been the walk-on. What's his name? I can't remember his name now. I can't remember the guy's name that played behind them. Anyways, it was either him or Josh Street. So they got a little bit of work to do. Center might be a work in progress throughout all of spring camp. But Bo, I think, is taken to it pretty good. Let's see. Andrew Chambly, I don't know what they're going to do with him. Him and Amarian Harris apparently have been really good. They've been bragged on a little bit. I've heard some other people kind of brag about those two. Amarian Harris, 6'7", just under 300 pounds. Andrew Chambly, 6'6", 303 pounds. Both those guys, what I love about that, both those guys are redshirt freshmen, right? I mean, when you look at this offensive line, I like seeing those young freshmen in the mix. Now, yeah, you want older, more mature, right? I get it. Seasoned veterans, but it's cool to see Chambly and Amarian Harris in the mix over there. Oh, boy. This took a little longer. I'm going to try and shoot through these. On the defense, Cam Ball, Torrin Carter have kind of been rotating in and out with the ones and twos from what I could tell. Let's see. Marcus Miller. I have not seen, and again, I have not seen the defense a lot. If I've watched any group the most, it's probably been the quarterbacks and the receivers for sure, and the tight ends a little bit. Jordan Crook and Antonio Greer were kind of, I think, rotating in with the ones. I think mostly Crook. Christopher Pupal, of course, no surprise there, redshirt sophomore. Manny Powell in with the twos. I'm happy to see that Manny Powell is as active as he's been. It's, again, really hard for me to say if he's looked 100%. My goal tomorrow is to watch the defense more. I did catch them a little bit last Thursday. Watched them a little bit, but not a ton. And what else do we have? Secondary, it's kind of a mix right now. I'm trying to look at my notes. Jalen Braxton's been in the mix. Dallas Young with the ones and twos, I'm pretty sure. Let's see. TJ Metcalf, true freshman's been kind of in and out with the twos and threes. Dylan Haas has actually participated a little bit. And, of course, Malik Chavis. I don't know what to make of the safeties just yet. Hudson Clark. I'll be honest, I haven't seen a ton of Hudson Clark. I didn't watch him in warm-up, so I'm assuming he's done pretty well. I think right now he's expected to beat out Jaden Johnson for what they consider, I think it's called it's right and they have right and left safety. So at right safety, I'm pretty sure they have Hudson Clark there. Jaden Johnson, and then RJ Johnson's in that mix as well for the 2 and 3. All right, so, yeah. Woo! Mekhi Mitchell looks like an old school guy. Ty, from what you've seen of Criswell, does it seem like NC didn't develop him that much since high school? I don't think it's. I don't know. It's just too early to say one way or another. I think he has plenty of room to grow. I would just hold judgment on him right now. I don't know. I mean, his development, it's tough when you're talking about a guy that's transferring in from one place to another. It would be unfair for me to say that. I don't know. I just haven't seen enough of him to make a determination there. Some of his balls were just, they weren't real pretty throws. They just weren't real pretty. But again, like I said at the beginning, it's early on in spring camp. We'll see how much that changes and how much tighter and how much more organized they all look when they're running fastball and they're running the 2s and 3s out onto the field. They've just got a little ways to go in certain areas, and Criswell is a part of that. But it wouldn't shock me. Any of these guys pass up Cade Fortin for that 2 spot. didn't have pretty balls. I don't know if that was meant to be a gag or not, but Cam Ball has a monster first step. Saw that on his high school tape. This is Lone Sportsman Outfitters. I'm excited for him. I'm excited for him and Torrin Carter and what's going on that defensive line. It's listen, I'm not saying they're full of All-Americans up front on the defensive line, but I do think they're going to be better. I mean, and I love that they're running, and when they're on defense, I don't think I've seen them run a 3-man front yet in fastball. Now, I'm really bad when I watch fastball. I'm really bad about just watching one guy and sometimes just forgetting about what's going on in the rest of the field. And I'm just watching that one player. I did that with Centennia. I did that with Tisla. I did that a little bit with just watching KJ, watching his natural progression, just throwing the ball. But again, fastball is basically like a mini scrimmage. It's the offense versus the defense, and they're going. It's full speed. If you watch that video that I uploaded here on YouTube, it's very fast. That's the tempo. And I think that's a Sam Pittman thing because they did that when Kendall was here, and now they're doing it with Dan Enos. Or that might just be the standard around college football that everybody does that, and Dan Enos, whatever. But they were a 4-man heavy up front, 4 defensive linemen up front, and it was nice to see that. Again, I can't wait to see more. I'm hoping I can make it in time to watch tomorrow. It's going to be cutting it close. Is it Chris? What do you mean? Can you clarify, Ty? Is it Criswell? Oh. They got some monsters at defensive tackle. If they get that Maryland defensive tackle, big and plus Big Ian, good Lord. Yeah. I agree. All right. I think we covered everything, right? And I hope I didn't misspeak. I was going through this list of all my notes, and they're not pretty. My notes are not pretty. I might have mixed some names up in certain spots, but I think I got the gist of it here in my notes. But and there might have been some guys I missed. Maybe I put them in the wrong spot. But it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, all I can tell you is just based on what I've seen from a performance standpoint when I'm watching fastball. And I try not to, but I tend to zero in on a guy and I'm just watching what he does. And you kind of want to, in a way, you're kind of sizing them up, I guess. Is that the right? You're kind of just watching their every move and trying to, in the back of your mind or maybe at the forefront of your mind, you're like trying to, all right, what's he doing here? Okay, he's going in motion. What's going on in the play? Is this going to be like an end around? What are we seeing? I'm just watching him the whole way through. Is he blocking downfield? How does he react to? Of course, they're not in full pads, but what I did last fall camp, is he going to avoid physical contact? I just try to watch these things, and so I zero in on that player without actually taking in the whole thing of what's happening. But what I did see from the defense. 4 front, that was nice to see. 4 men up front, that's always good to see. I got here late. I don't think they did. The media. No one got any emails about today. As far as I know, if they did, maybe they practiced. They just didn't give anybody any access. I don't know. But yeah. Oh, thanks for the super chat, damn dude. I appreciate that. Thank you. How many transfer spots do we have left? Are we shopping a center? How's Joshua Braun doing? I think Braun. I'm pretty sure Braun has worked with the ones. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I saw him with the ones. Now, there's so much. I really need to upload either in Discord or maybe on YouTube how chaotic things are and how hard it is to see everything that's happening. I'm almost positive I saw him working with the ones. I could be wrong. But I actually looked on my notes. I have that crossed out with question marks. So I didn't get a real good look if he was out there with the ones or not, but I think he might have been. So I'll just try to keep an eye on it next tomorrow. Yeah, I think it's 7 spots, Tony. Sorry. Pretty sure it's 7. I think it's 7 spots. I don't know if they're going to shop a center or not. They might. I'm not saying that Bo Limmer isn't working out at center, but and Josh Street for that matter. I mean, it just takes a little bit of time. And spring should be enough to get someone acclimated to what they're doing at center. That should be enough to at least just get acclimated, right? Understanding your job, and sometimes your mind wanders to what your blocking assignment is, what might or might not be happening behind you, and sometimes that can affect the snap. And so that's probably some of it, right? Like centers, depending on the offense, they typically are the anchor on that offensive line. They're calling out things for the rest, for the guys to your left and right. You're supposed to have the best view of what's happening right there at those gaps, so you're trying to talk to guys. And so that might be some of it. And just being able to set up and snap the ball, sometimes it's harder than you realize. You forget the snap count, right? Or you just snap wrong. You snap the ball wrong. And although that's rare, it does happen even with starters. That's why quality center matters, man. Ooh, is that another saying? Quality snaps matter? Or quality centers? Quality centers matter. But snapping the ball, that's not all they do, right? They have sometimes in some offenses they have quite a bit of responsibilities. And some more than others, certain places. So I don't know. They may be fine with Josh Street backing him up. They may move some people. I feel like the twos are going to be mixed up quite a bit in the coming days or fall camp. I think there's going to be some mixing up there. So, all right, can't wait for Illinois breakdown. Yeah, we'll do that on whenever I'm available. Just make sure you guys are following me on Twitter, or if you're in Discord, I'll try to keep you up to date. I told Discord earlier, like, this isn't going to happen today. It's just going to happen before 8 o'clock, and luckily it did. Now it's almost 9 o'clock. I'm exhausted. I have no energy left. I've given you the rest of that energy. Now I'm going to go eat dinner. I've got a quesadilla I need to go make myself. Chicken quesadilla with homemade, by the way, Taco Bell sauce. The Taco Bell quesadilla sauce, which is fire on their chicken quesadillas. So I actually made some. It's homemade, and I'm excited. Gonna put some pico and some lettuce, some guacamole, some sour cream. I'm gonna tear that sumbitch up. Can't wait. And then I'm gonna go to bed, or shower and then go to bed. And get ready for the rest of the week. I promise I'll keep you guys up to date either on Discord or wherever. And I'll probably upload some more shorts this week, at least a couple more. Those have been doing really well. You guys are watching them. I'm glad you guys are digging them. So, all right. Woo! We're done. I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anything before you guys leave. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. If you're a Patreon supporter, listen, you need to go watch that interview. It is Josh Minman was awesome. He is that was really cool for him to make time for us and to do. He did a really good job. But Josh Minman, for those of you who don't know, if you're like, wait, what was this Patreon interview? Josh Minman is the guy responsible for the video I'm about to play you. Well, not the first 20 seconds, but I'm about to play the video here once we're done. He's responsible. He's the senior graphic designer for the Arkansas Razorback football program. Anytime you see those neat graphics, it's Josh. So I'm going to play you guys that video that he actually put together. It's really cool. It's him explaining kind of what all went into that. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, you have access to that. So, all right. Woo Pig. I'll see you guys before the Arkansas and Illinois game. Go Hogs. How long did that take you, the initial edit? How long did that take you, talking about the actual graphic itself?
Right. So the whole design was probably maybe an hour. It was a but yeah, I had a couple friends ask me if I could show a behind the scenes process of me putting together a design. And I don't know how much I actually revealed in that, the fact that it was sped up, 10, 15 times or something like that. So I don't know if they got to really see the techniques as much, but kind of gave them an idea of kind of how I play around with putting things together and, what order I do stuff. So
the sped up process part of the editing, I was digging it. I was like, I've got to show that on the Patreon show. But Josh, I do, man, again, really appreciate you taking time. I know your window was a little short. You didn't have a whole lot of time, and I appreciate you coming on this Sunday afternoon.
I appreciate you having me on.